Have you ever told someone your struggles, only to feel weaker afterward? Have you ever shared your ambitions, only to be met with doubt instead of support? Why do we assume that others will guard our words when even we struggle to protect our own thoughts? Throughout history, the strongest minds have known one truth: silence is power. The ones who move in silence, who guard their plans, their pains, their aspirations, they are the ones who cannot be manipulated, cannot be broken, cannot be controlled. So ask yourself, what if the very things you share so freely are the things holding you back? Today, cover the 7 things you should never share with anyone. Some may surprise you. Others may make you uncomfortable, but once you hear them, you will never look at conversation the same way again. Are you ready to reclaim your power? Let's begin. 1. The weight of the past, why your failures should remain. Silent failure is like a scar. It never truly disappears, but it fades into the background, hidden beneath the surface of who you've become. Yet, some people insist on pulling back the curtain, exposing their past wounds as if seeking validation or absolution. But what if sharing your failures doesn't liberate you, but instead chains you to them? A man who constantly speaks of his past mistakes invites the world to define him by them. The more you tell your story of defeat, the more you become the defeated. No one will remember the warrior you are today if you remind them of the battles you lost. Of your own words. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic emperors, faced countless setbacks, from betrayals to brutal wars to the loss of those closest to him. Yet, in his meditations, he never once lamented his failures to others. Instead, he used them as lessons to strengthen his mind, not as chains to weigh him down. When you openly discuss your past failures, you risk more than judgment. You risk becoming a prisoner of your own narrative. People don't always listen with empathy. They listen with curiosity, with bias, with a hunger to categorize you. They will remember your failures long after you have moved on from them. A quiet rebuilding. Consider a fallen city. A great fire has reduced it to ashes. The wise builder does not stand among the ruins, mourning what was lost for all to see. He does not walk through the streets, reminding people of the destruction. Instead, he gathers his tools in silence and begins to rebuild. This is the path of the Stoic. What has been lost is irrelevant. What you build now is all that matters. When you speak, you give away power. The world often romanticizes failure. The idea that sharing your lowest moments makes you relatable or strong, but the Stoics knew better. Strength is not in how much of your suffering you reveal, but in how much you overcome without needing recognition. The moment you share your past failures, you give others a map of your weaknesses. You open doors for doubt, for pity, for whispers behind your back. You allow people to see you through the lens of who you were, not who you are becoming. Your past is a lesson, not a label. This does not mean failure should be ignored. It means it should be processed, understood, and used as fuel privately. The lesson is yours to carry, to integrate, to use as quiet wisdom in your next battle. Seneca once wrote, "A setback has often cleared the way for greater prosperity." But he never said you should announce that setback to the world. Let your future success be the only proof that you ever failed. So the next time you feel the urge to confess your past defeats, stop, look forward, not back. Speak of where you are going, not where you stumbled, because the only thing more powerful than overcoming failure is doing it silently. 2. The power of silence. Why your future plans should remain private. A tree does not announce when it will bear fruit. It simply grows steadily, silently, until one day the world takes notice. So why do we feel the need to declare our plans before they are realized, in an age where people broadcast their ambitions to the world? Stoicism offers a different path. Move in silence. Let your actions speak, because the moment you reveal your plans, you invite something dangerous: expectation, doubt, and unseen resistance. The more you speak, the weaker your vision becomes. Epictetus once said, "First, learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak." But too often, we do the opposite. We speak before we build. We announce before we act. Sharing your plans feels rewarding. People encourage you, admire your ambition. But that admiration is deceptive. It tricks your mind into feeling accomplished before you've even started. Psychologists call this the intention-action gap. The more you talk about your goal, the less likely you are to actually achieve it. A writer who tells everyone about their book before they've written a single page may never finish it. A person who speaks of their fitness journey without stepping into the gym may never begin. Speaking creates an illusion of progress, but only action brings results. The world is not always on your side. Not everyone who listens to your dreams wants to see them come true. Some will doubt you, some will envy you, and some, whether consciously or not, will plant seeds of hesitation in your mind. Imagine a sculptor with a block of marble. Before his masterpiece is formed, the stone looks rough, unshaped, unimpressive. If he listens to onlookers who mock the early stages, he may never finish. But if he works in solitude, undistracted, he will eventually reveal something extraordinary. This is why the Stoics valued self-sufficiency. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire, often wrote as if he was speaking only to himself. His reflections were not for public approval, but for internal clarity, because the strongest plans are forged in solitude, away from the noise of opinions. Adjust without explanation. The future is unpredictable. You may change your mind, shift your goals, or take an entirely different path. But if you have already shared your plans with others, you create unnecessary pressure. You feel compelled to stay on course, not because it's the right path, but because others are watching. You fear judgment, the whispers of what happened to their big idea. And so, you push forward, not out of purpose, but out of obligation. But a Stoic knows, adaptability is strength. There is no shame in shifting direction, Seneca wrote. A wise man is not bound to a single course, but sails with the wind. If a plan no longer serves you, discard it without hesitation, and if no one knew of it to begin with, you are free to adjust without explanation. Let success be your voice. The most powerful achievements come from those who build in silence and let their results do the talking. The great minds of history, Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, Steve Jobs, did not loudly declare every idea before it was formed. They worked, refined, and only unveiled their visions when they were undeniable. So the next time you feel the urge to announce your plans, resist. Let your work unfold away from the eyes of expectation. When the time is right, The world will see your success. Until then, move quietly, like a storm gathering its strength. 3. Guard your deepest desires. The power of silent ambition. A flame that burns too brightly is vulnerable to the wind, but a fire that is shielded, protected, and left to grow in silence becomes unstoppable. So why do we expose our deepest aspirations to the world, inviting doubt, judgment, and interference? Your truest desires, the ones that keep you awake at night, the ones that whisper to you in quiet moments, are not meant to be scattered carelessly in conversation. They are sacred, and like all sacred things, they must be protected. The cost of speaking too soon. There is a strange thing that happens when you share your ambitions with others. You expect encouragement, but often you are met with skepticism. People project their own fears onto your dreams. They remind you of the risks, the failures, the reasons why it won't work. And suddenly, what once felt possible begins to feel fragile. Even those with the best intentions can unintentionally weaken your resolve. They may not understand your vision, they may not share your hunger, and without realizing it, they may plant seeds of doubt where once there was certainty. The Stoics understood this. A desire that is still growing should not be exposed to the cold winds of opinion. Epictetus warned against seeking validation from others, for it leads to dependence. If your ambition is real, it needs no audience, it only needs action. The quiet path to mastery. Consider the sculptor who begins his work with a rough block of stone. He does not invite the crowd to watch as he carves the first cuts. He does not explain his vision before it is formed. He works in silence, chiseling away, refining his craft, until one day, what was once unseen becomes undeniable. The same is true for your deepest desires. Speak too soon, and they become diluted. Work in silence, and they become unstoppable. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, understood the value of restraint. He could have spoken endlessly about his philosophies and ambitions, yet his meditations, his deepest thoughts were never meant for public eyes. They were written for himself as a way to sharpen his mind, to reinforce his purpose, without the distraction of external voices. Desire without attachment. The world tells us to dream big, to announce our goals, to chase success at all costs. But the Stoics knew better. They pursued mastery, not applause. They desired progress, not validation. They understood that true ambition is not about external recognition, it is about internal fulfillment. Seneca once wrote, "He who is everywhere is nowhere." The same is true for our desires. If we scatter them, if we seek approval from too many, they lose their power. But if we guard them, nurture them, and channel them into action, they transform into something real. Let your actions speak. A lion does not roar before the hunt. A storm does not announce when it will break. And the truly ambitious do not declare their desires before they are realized. So protect your fire. Keep your aspirations where they belong within you. Let them drive you forward. Let them shape your path, but do not hand them over to the world before they are ready. Because when the time comes, you won't need to tell anyone what you've been working toward. They'll see it for themselves. 4. The silent battles within. Why your inner struggles should remain yours. Not all wars are fought on battlefields. Some take place in the quiet corners of the mind, unseen by the world but just as fierce. These are the wars of self-doubt, fear, and internal conflict, the kind that no one else can fight for you. There is a temptation, when burdened with these struggles, to seek comfort in others, to confess our battles in the hope that someone will understand, that their words will soothe the storm within. But not all burdens are meant to be shared. Some must be carried alone, because in that solitude we find our strength, the weight of your own thoughts. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man of his time, wrote his deepest thoughts only to himself. He did not seek sympathy, nor did he cry out for understanding. Instead, he used his meditations as a weapon against his own mind, sharpening his thoughts like a blade, training himself to rise above his doubts rather than be consumed by them. He understood a truth that many ignore. When you constantly speak of your struggles, you do not release them, you feed them. You give them power, you reinforce their hold on you, and worst of all, you invite the world to see you as weak. Strength is built in solitude. There is a reason why the greatest warriors, thinkers, and leaders have always turned inward in times of crisis. The battle within is not won by seeking reassurance, but by mastering oneself. A river does not announce the rocks that try to break its flow, it carves through them, silently, relentlessly. A tree does not cry out when the wind bends it to the ground, it strengthens its roots and endures. You must do the same. Your struggles are not a cry for help. They are a test of your resilience, the danger of dependence. When we share our inner battles too freely, we risk something even greater than judgment. We risk dependency. We grow accustomed to external comfort, to the reassurance of others, and in doing so, we weaken our own ability to stand alone. Epictetus warned against this when he said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." If you rely on others to lift you every time you fall, you will never learn how to rise on your own. And the world, it is fickle. The hands that comfort you today may not always be there tomorrow. Master yourself in silence. This does not mean you must suffer in isolation. It means that before you seek comfort, you must first seek control. Before you speak, you must listen to yourself, to your thoughts, to the quiet strength that lies beneath the noise of fear. The Stoics did not believe in ignoring pain. They believed in owning it. They understood that struggle is not something to escape, it is something to endure, to conquer, to transform. Let your actions speak. If you are at war with yourself, fight silently. Let your growth, your resilience, and your discipline be the only proof that a battle ever took place. Because true strength is not found in those who cry out for help at every hardship, it is found in those who rise without a word and keep moving forward. So suffer well, endure with grace. And when you emerge victorious, let the world who did it. 5. Wealth and silence. Why your financial life should remain private. Money is like fire, it can warm your home or burn it to the ground, and in the wrong hands it becomes a tool of control, expectation, and envy. We live in a world where wealth is either idolized or resented, where people measure your worth by the weight of your wallet. Say too much about your finances, and you will invite judgment. Say too little, and you will move freely without the weight of others' expectations. The currency of perception. A man who speaks too openly about his wealth, whether of abundance or scarcity, gives the world a weapon to use against him. If you are seen as wealthy, people expect generosity. If you are seen as struggling, people assume weakness. Either way, your finances become a matter of public opinion rather than private strategy. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest Stoic philosophers, understood this paradox. Despite his vast riches, he practiced living simply, dressing modestly, and ensuring that his wealth did not control him, nor did it define him in the eyes of others. His fortune was a tool, not a title. The quiet power of financial independence. Money should give you freedom, not bind you to the opinions of others. The more people know about your financial situation, the more they believe they have a say in it. A sudden raise at work? Expect friends to suggest you treat them. A financial struggle? Prepare for unsolicited advice, judgment, or even pity. But when your finances are silent, so are the expectations. The Stoics believed in control over one's own mind, actions, and resources. Epictetus reminded his students that true wealth is not in possessions, but in independence. And independence is only possible when you do not allow others to dictate how you should live. Luxury is an illusion, true wealth is freedom. Society trains us to chase status symbols, bigger houses, fancier cars, expensive brands, not because we need them, but because they serve as proof to others that we have made it. But who is truly wealthy? The man who must keep running to maintain his image, or the man who moves unnoticed, unburdened by external expectations? A Stoic does not seek approval through material excess. They understand that money is a means, not an end. Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling an empire, did not indulge in extravagance. He focused on what mattered: his discipline, his duty, his philosophy. He understood that true power does not come from what you own, but from what you can walk away from. Move in silence, build in private. If you are building wealth, build it quietly. If you are struggling, struggle privately. Let your financial life be like the roots of a tree hidden beneath the surface, yet strong enough to support everything above. The world does not need to know your salary, your investments, or your debts. These are tools for you to use, not for others to judge. Your financial strength should not come from how people perceive you, but from how free you are to live life on your own terms. So let the world chase status. Let them measure wealth in numbers. You measure it in freedom. 6. Fear is a whisper. Do not let it become a voice. Fear lives in the shadows of the mind, lurking, waiting, always ready to remind you of your weaknesses. But what happens when you let the world hear it? When you expose your deepest fears, do you truly free yourself? Or do you simply hand others a weapon to use against you? The Stoics knew the answer. Fear is personal. It is not meant to be shared, but mastered. The illusion of comfort. There is a common belief that speaking of our fears will lessen them, that vulnerability will make us stronger. But often, the opposite is true. The more we voice our fears, the more we reinforce them. We turn them from passing thoughts into concrete realities, from whispers into echoes that never fade. Marcus Aurelius faced battles, betrayals, and the weight of an empire on his shoulders. Yet, in his meditations, he did not beg for sympathy or validation. Instead, he wrote to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He did not seek comfort in confession. He sought control. Fear is only as strong as you make it. Imagine two warriors preparing for battle. One stands in silence, gripping his sword, facing his fear alone. The other speaks of his doubts, his anxieties, his weakness, shopping for reassurance. When the battle begins, who do you think will stand stronger? When you share your deepest fears, you invite the world to see you through a lens of fragility. You hand them a map of your vulnerabilities, trusting that they will not use it against you. But the world is not always kind, and people, whether intentionally or not, will remember your fears long after you have outgrown them. The Stoic approach to fear. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality. The fears we speak of, the ones we dwell on, are often worse than the reality we will ever face. By keeping them private, we strip them of their power. We learn to observe them, question them, and ultimately overcome them without allowing them to define us. Instead of voicing your fears, do this. Write them down, but do not dwell on them. Examine them with reason, not emotion. Face them in silence. Strength is built in the moments when no one is watching. Act despite them. Fear fades in the presence of action. Master your fear, do not let it master you. A lion does not announce that it is afraid before the hunt. A mountain does not tremble before the storm. And a Stoic does not offer his fears to the world, hoping for permission to be strong. So hold your fears close. Not as chains, but as lessons. Not as burdens, but as fuel. Because the moment you stop speaking of them, you take back your power. 7. The Stoic view on politics. Speak less, observe more. Politics is fire. Get too close, and you burn. Step too far away, and you remain in darkness. The challenge is knowing how to engage without losing yourself. We live in a time where political opinions are currency traded, debated, weaponized. People wear their beliefs like armor, convinced that words alone can shift the tides of the world. But the Stoics did not waste breath on endless arguments. They understood that true power comes not from speaking, but from acting, the illusion of influence. Marcus Aurelius ruled Rome, yet he rarely spoke of politics as we know it today. His concern was not with winning debates, but with ruling wisely. His meditations do not contain grand political manifestos, only reminders to stay rational, to lead with virtue, to remain calm in the face of chaos. Most people believe their opinions shape the world, but in reality, opinions do not build roads, feed the hungry, or stop worse actions do. A Stoic does not argue over ideology. He focuses on what is within his control. Debate is a trap. Engaging in political arguments often serves no purpose other than to divide. People do not enter discussions to learn, they enter to win. And in a battle of words, no one truly wins. Epictetus warned against this. If someone can provoke you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. By engaging in heated political discourse, you risk your peace. You allow yourself to be pulled into anger, into frustration, into a fight that rarely changes minds, but always drains energy. A Stoic does not waste effort on what he cannot control. Politics and character. This does not mean ignoring politics entirely. It means engaging with wisdom. A Stoic votes, contributes, and participates, but does so silently, effectively, without spectacle. He does not demand that others think as he does. He does not seek validation through agreement. He leads by example, not by empty words. Seneca once wrote, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In a world where political chaos is constant, the wise do not shout, they observe. They act, and they remain unshaken. Let action speak. If you wish to change the world, do it not with noise, but with quiet strength. Serve, build, improve. But do not let the fire of politics consume your clarity, your purpose, your inner peace. Because in the end, the loudest voices are often the least effective, and the strongest minds, they move in silence. In a world that demands constant expression, the greatest strength lies in restraint. What you keep private protects you. What you guard gives you power. The Stoics knew this well. Your failures, your plans, your fears, your beliefs, these are not for the world to shape. They are for you to master. Move in silence, let your actions speak, and watch as the world takes notice. If this video resonated with you, like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. Tell me in the comments, what is one thing you choose to keep private? Comment below, power in silence, or control what you reveal.